Oh, oh, check it out.
In 1973, in the Bronx, New York, DJ Kool Herc threw hip-hop's first party. Kool Herc would play the soul records they all loved, but he would play the break of the song on a loop. The break of the song would usually consist of a drum solo. They would use it as their beat. On top of this, they would have an MC. At this point in time, the MC would just talk to the crowd. There was no rhythmic or rhyme to his words, just talking. DJ Kool Herc's parties became so popular in the Bronx from this revolutionary style. It is said the difference between a hip-hop party and a disco party is the breakbeat, and this is where breakdancing was invented. This was hip-hop in its earliest stage, in its most raw form. The art of rapping started to form soon after. MCs began to evolve. They began to speak rhythmically over the beat. This style was influenced by a New York radio show host at the time named Frank Crocker. He would speak to his audience with groove, rhythm, and rhyme. This inspired the art of rapping. Rap groups like Grandmaster Flash and the Fantastic Five and Cold Crush began to play concerts in the Bronx and in Harlem. The two groups would often battle against each other on stage, and the crowd would decide the winner. These groups then went on to other cities and states and became the first touring rappers. From 1973 to 1978, rap was a live performance art. No rappers were being recorded. In 1979 came the idea of hip-hop's first record. It is said that hip-hop had a BC/AD type history, and that is why the first pioneers of hip-hop are so often overlooked. In 1979, the Sugar Hill Gang recorded the first single, Rapper's Delight, and it became the first hip-hop record and a global hit.
I said the hip hop, the hip it to the hip hop, you don't stop the rockin' to the bang bang boogie, say up jump the boogie to the rhythm of the boogie to beat.
About this time, DJs began playing in clubs in Manhattan. The downtown clubs were hosting DJs like Africa Bambaataa and Grandmaster Flash, while at the same time hosting punk rock bands in the same night. Punk was the alternative to rock, and hip-hop was the alternative to disco. Hip-hop stayed uptown until 1979. It was exclusively a part of black culture. It had now spread from the uptown to downtown, black culture to all cultures, and it was taking over the scene of pop culture. Out of Queens, New York, came a guy named Russell Simmons. Russell Simmons is credited with forming the Beatles of hip-hop, known as Run DMC. Run DMC consisted of Russell's younger brother, Joey Simmons, and Joey's friend, Daryl McDaniels. Run DMC quickly rose to the top of the hip-hop charts in the 80s, with hits like Run's House and It's Tricky.
Who's Run's House? I want to again, my friend, not a trend, but then they said rap.
Soon after, Russell Simmons met his business partner, Rick Rubin. Rick Rubin was a college student at NYU who had an obsession with hip-hop and a good ear for it. One day, Rubin brought Simmons a record he and LL Cool J made called I Need a Beat, and the two clicked ever since. Russell Simmons and Rick Rubin became business partners and started the label Def Jam Records. Def Jam Records initially brought up artists such as LL Cool J and the Beastie Boys. They have since become one of the most prestigious hip-hop labels ever. In the late 80s, a rap group named Public Enemy came on the scene. They paved the way for protest rap with their song Fight the Power. The 80s started with artists such as Curtis Blow rapping a Christmas record, and ended with Public Enemy protesting American pop culture. Hip-hop was finally understanding its power and its influence, not only in New York, but in the whole country. Hip-hop made its way to the West Coast and settled into Los Angeles. At the time, gangs, violence, and drugs were the scene in LA, and not so much the music. DJs were popular, but no one had a rap record. That was until a guy named Ice-T made a record called 6 in the Morning. That became known as the Gangbangers Anthem and essentially put LA rap on the map. After Ice-T came arguably the most popular rap group of all time, NWA. made up of Dr. Dre, Ice Cube, DJ Yella, MC Ren, Arabian Prince, and Eazy-E. NWA created the sound of the West Coast and the sound of gangsta rap with their first hit, Boys in the Hood. Rap became a way to send a message and reflect on the world around you. A few years later, in the early 90s, NWA broke up and Dr. Dre began his solo career, debuting with the revolutionary album, The Chronic. This album was the beginning of what hip-hop is today. It made rap the new pop. It paved the way for people like Biggie Smalls and Tupac and rappers for decades to come. I hope this video taught you guys more about hip-hop and how it started and how it became what it is today.
California